My name is Magdalena Woolery, and I would love to share Timor-Leste's example of how we supported a Lola Foundation for nurturing care centres of excellence. Next slide, please. Slide. Yeah. One more. Okay. So Timor-Leste is situated between Australia and Indonesia, and it's an island nation. We experienced heavy rains, which resulted in flash floods, and it affected all of our municipalities. There were over 41 deaths, and a total of over 30,000 households affected, mainly in the city of Dili. We experienced an influx of formula, bottles, milks, and other inappropriate products from Indonesia, and this was distributed in all the IDP camps. Next slide. So exclusive breastfeeding is 64.2%. Our under-5 mortality is high. 50% of our children are stunted. And according to UNICEF, 1 in 24 will not live to experience their 5th birthday. Carry on, sorry. One more picture. Yeah, so Timor-Leste has signed a lot of global policies. Within a decade, it signed the children's rights and so on, but the code has been on the desk for close to 2 decades now. And the breastfeeding promotion policy, which you can access online, is still in draft form. In 2020, Timor-Leste became what's called a SUN country, and IPPAN have produced some great articles on this and the concerns regarding GAIN, the business entity of SUN. Next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, one more. So our experience, well, it has been a challenge, and but it's a good example for us because it's the whole reason we have a code. Industry has not changed. Their tactics remain the same, and they like to work through proxies. And well, since 2018, we've been documenting a pattern of behavior in undermining breastfeeding. And it culminated during this emergency, the flood emergency, in the refusal to release the standard IYCF-E statement. But what was to follow was just shocking. Government agencies were distributing milk and other ultra-processed products to very malnourished women and children. I really want to share the case study of this child. He is 2 years old, and we found him in a camp. This camp had not yet received support. When we found him, he had diarrhea, vomiting, he was pyrexic, he had a fever, his MUAC was 11.2, and he was in a critical state. We provided nurturing care, and he started to thrive, and he was not the only one. There were other children. But it was shocking because we were working with Ministry of Health, and Maternal Child Health Department was 100% supporting our efforts and doing amazingly, but we received nasty phone calls. We were told to shut down. Next slide. Thank you. One more. Thanks. So the problem is really predatory marketing at every level. I've never seen violations like during the emergency. It just intensified. And because we do monitoring before the emergency, we could compare. And all the milk products from infant formula, follow-on formulas, maternal milks were discounted during an emergency. There was intense lobbying from a group in New South Wales, Australia. It's actually a registered business, and A major Indonesian bank had donated, you can see in the photo there, in just one monitoring in an IDP camp, 180 kilograms of infant formula. There's no water, there's no fuel. The evacuation centres all received Indo milk from government agencies, including Ministry of Health Nutrition team, and you can see some of the monitoring collected there. There was high-level distributions of infant formula, other milk products, and ultra-processed food. What did this mean? It meant that children were living off instant noodles and down cow processed milk and Indo milk. A proxy at a proxy, I won't mention names, kept spreading the message that the WHO doesn't matter, WHO code doesn't matter. But Timor-Leste is a World Health Assembly member sovereign state and has endorsed the code. Next slide, please. So I just want to share with you some of the violations and some of the concerns and issues of conflicts of interest, potential conflicts of interest. So this one, the Red Cross distributed not only condensed milk, but they made social media and the head of the Red Cross Timor-Leste televised request for infant formula. This, on the top left-hand corner, you'll see a Facebook post from a Red Cross volunteer asking for infant formula for twins. We did a rapid assessment there, and what I found was 0 mothers that were formula feeding. I found 10 mothers, 9 of them were exclusive breastfeeding. 1 of them had a 10-month-old that was breastfeeding and on complementary food. I received, and if you look, I don't know if you can zoom up on that white table, there is a bottle with a green lid and there's formula on there. So I received a call from the head of pediatrics at the National Hospital urging me to come and support this mother. And my heart sank when I saw her. It was this mother, and I have consent to share her story and photo. So her baby, one of her babies, was query sepsis, was on oxygen, and we worked quickly to help this mother. But I just want to highlight 1 bottle of formula, we don't know how long it was left on that table, is risky, and especially in emergency. Next to that picture, you'll see a packet of Indo milk. And if you look very carefully, there's some kind of infestation. We received a message from a mother support group who we trained in the code and so on. She says, ada ular. Ada ular means there's worms, so maggots in there. Next to that picture is the Minister of Health, who at that camp where we had found those worms, she came as a surprise visit and encouraged us to continue our work. But because we have monitors on the ground, we discovered that 5 days later, she returned privately, not with Ministry of Health, but privately to distribute Indo milk. Indo milk is from Indo Food, and Indo Food is co-chair of the Sun business. So anyway, next to that, you'll see our code monitoring tool. In May, on the anniversary of the code, the server was cut, and it really hindered our monitoring. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see the Prime Minister's wife on the left and the President's wife. All this information is in the public domain. You can check out on their Facebook pages, so I can share. So this is the New South Wales group, Timor Chinese Association. Both the Prime Minister's wife and President's wife signed agreements, and these products were distributed in camps. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so how did we solve this? We had to be there on the ground. We provided nurturing care and developed centers of excellence. Nurturing care is a WHO framework, and it is amazing. It's evidence-based and it saves lives. Next slide, please. Thank you, Ben. Okay, so there's lots of lessons, but I won't go through all of it because of time. But number one, target the most vulnerable. These are special needs babies. These are children. Identify the children that have diarrhea, that have respiratory tract infections, the malnourished, pregnant mothers, lactating mothers. Skin-to-skin contact is so important, and it's underused. It prevents child trafficking. It's a psychosocial care for the mother and child, reduces depression and increases the mother's milk supply. Of course, we did breastfeeding protection, promotion and support, including developing a breastfeeding doll. We identified quickly wet nurses, developed a really simple database, did relactation and bottle amnesty and cup feeding. We did not need bottles. We did not need formula. There's mothers that have breast milk, and if they're counseled well, they will give their breast milk. The community empowerment is the number one. I mean, when the community is educated and understands the risks of formula, they hand over the bottles for the bottle amnesty and happily receive a cup. Our messaging is always simple. We have a lot of illiteracy, so we used images, and we developed 10 steps to centers of excellence, and MOH was so happy with the results because you could see it, the children, their MUAC readings, we had the data. They replicated 20 with UNICEF support. Alola were there, and they prevented, intercepted and managed donations. We did not need to reuse ultra-processed products or formula. They cooked delicious, traditional nutritious foods, and we developed, because we get stockouts, and we worked with Pro Enma Restaurant School, who help women in the districts, empowers them, and we developed a local version of Plum Peanut, but really importantly, the community became code heroes. They could see the results with their children. Next slide, please.